Oh, that's too hot to drink. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. I'm paying attention. I'm good. Everything's fine. So, how's everybody this week? Leo, it was a joy and a delight to see you, as always. I'm so glad that you made a video. It's been, gosh, a while. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while. So it was nice to see a video from you on the channel. Let me think. What have we got to talk about this week? So we were talking about the Lord of the Rings, and like, I do absolutely agree with you about the descriptions in Tolkien. He's yeah, I agree. The thing is, like, you'll be reading along and like there's plot stuff happening and character stuff happening and things are going and then like suddenly everything just kind of like stops so that he can like describe trees for 10 pages or whatever, and like they're beautiful descriptions of trees, like they're very, very lovely, but they don't, they're not for anything, like in terms of like they don't really do anything narratively. They're not like, they don't advance the plot, they don't do anything in that way. They're just like world building, essentially. They're like, as you say, you can really tell when you read them that like he can see every leaf and rock, and he wants to describe them all for you in great detail. And if you are a big fan of long descriptions of landscape, then, you know, that works for you. But it can be really, I think, I think it can just feel very, very dry. Like, that's something that I've really found about his writing style is that it is very, like, academic and very, there is a lot of like description of things, which is not bad in any way, but like it can get very dusty is the word that I find myself wanting to use. I mean, the books are very slow anyway. They're very like measured and they're very paced, and I mean, that's pretty clearly, like, on purpose, you know. It's not, like, he's not doing that because he's a bad writer. Like, he's doing it on purpose. He has a reason, but because there is so much description and there is so much, because it's so sort of drawn out, it can get really, like, tiring, I think, to read. And I think that it can be very difficult to read if that is not a style that appeals to you. I generally don't really have a problem with reading sort of dry, dusty things, or at least I used to not. When my brain worked better, I could read things like that more easily than I can now. But I do remember, even when I read The Lord of the Rings, which again I've only been through in its entirety once, which was about, that's when I was in college, so it would have been around, I think it would have been somewhere in the vicinity of like 2001, 2002 ish. And like, even then I remember like reading it and being like, this is very, like, I have to really focus on this when I'm reading it. Like, I really had to be like, okay, I am going to read The Lord of the Rings right now. And I would like sit down and I would focus on it. And I remember mostly that I read it during, I had big gaps in my schedule at college, like where I would have like a big gap in between classes, and I didn't have anything to go in that space, and I couldn't go home, obviously, because, like, home was a reasonable distance away. And I didn't have any way to get there, so, like, I would just have to sort of find somewhere to be. So I would go hang out in the library and, like, either do homework or read or whatever. And I remember going through basically all of the Lord of the Rings, sitting in the library in between other classes. And that was nice because I could just like really focus on it and not be distracted by anything else going on, which, you know, might be the way that I made it through it, really. I like this. Sounds like I think the Lord of the Rings is bad, and I don't. I liked the Lord of the Rings. I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings, but it is. I do feel like he has a kind of difficult writing style, and The Hobbit, I think, has a much more accessible writing style. It still is very mannered. It's still very sort of like old-fashioned, and I mean old-fashioned even for his time period, and very I don't know what the word is I want, stylized maybe, but I do feel like The Hobbit has a more like accessible writing style in general, which I think is why it's so much more popular with people who have not otherwise read The Lord of the Rings or any of his other work. I think it's probably the reason that it's the one that has been, like, you know, adapted into cartoons and stuff like that. Like, it's not really, like, I would not categorize it myself as, like, particularly for children, although I think that we kind of think of it that way. But, like, I do think that it's definitely easier reading for people than The Lord of the Rings. And I haven't read any of the rest of his stuff either. I mean, there's a lot of stuff besides just the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. There are a lot of other books, and I have not read any of them. So, like, I assume they are more Lord of the Rings-esque in terms of writing style. This is a lot of talking about the Lord of the Rings, which I have not even read in 20-something years. And I don't really know why I've gotten so, like, off on this particular line of thought. What else were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about, like, doing stuff on your own, right? I feel like I didn't even know, I don't think, until I was an adult. Like, I was probably in my 30s before I really realized that, like, there was a stigma around doing things on your own, like going to a restaurant by yourself or going to the movies by yourself. I don't think that I really realized that was something that other people really thought was, like, bad or uncomfortable, or that people would think they were a weirdo. I mean, part of that, I think, for me is because I have always spent a lot of time on my own. I'm an only child. I didn't have, you know, I didn't have siblings. I didn't have, like when I was a kid, I didn't have that much time outside of school that I was, like, spending with my friends, because there was no way for us to get together. Like, you would have to get somebody's parents to agree to take you somewhere, or, like, to shuttle between houses or whatever, so that you could hang out at each other's houses or whatever. And, like, none of my friends had parents that would really, like, readily agree to doing that, because they were all busy and they were all, like, doing other things with their time. So I've always been, like, I've always done a lot of things by myself, but, like, I also don't really, like, go out places to do things, because I live in the middle of nowhere. So, like, there are no restaurants here to go out to by myself, or there are no movie theaters here to go to by myself, you know? There are no things like that. So I didn't really go out to things, but I've always done a lot of things by myself. So I think that I never really realized, like, I was vaguely aware that people didn't, like, people were more likely to go with someone to things like that. Like, I understood that, and I understood that there was, like, kind of a vague, like, discomfort with the idea that a lot of people were, like, vaguely discomforted vaguely uncomfortable with the idea of like going to a restaurant on their own or whatever. But I don't think I realized like that there was an actual like stigma attached to that kind of thing until I was older. Like, and I like understood that like people thought that was actively a weird thing to do, and I've never quite understood why. Because I can't, like, it seems very normal to me to go and do something like that by yourself, especially something that's really simple, like going to a restaurant or going to a movie. Like, it seems very odd to me to think that's weird. I'm quite rambly today, apparently, and I've been rambling for quite some time. And I feel like I have not said anything very interesting or profound. I may have just repeated my entire last video. I feel like I've possibly just said exactly what I said last time. So, yeah, I'm sorry about that. But, let me see, what else? Do I have anything else? I don't think I have anything else. I started working on the mock-up of my dress, if anyone's following along with that as a sort of general thing. I'm gonna have to like take it apart and redo it because I think it's the right size. I think that I need to redo the darts. I think all the darts are in the wrong spots, but I won't know until I have like undone them and redone them. And also I have to put the sleeves in because I can't tell how anything's going to fit until I get the sleeves in properly, because of the way the bodice is shaped. This is not important. Okay, I am going to go because I've been talking for 12 minutes and I have not said anything useful. So I love you all very much. I hope that you are having a good week. I will see you next week. Don't forget to be awesome.